quality food. And that is a 365-day issue in parts of South St. Petersburg, which is a food desert and has been since the Walmart at Tangerine Plaza closed back in 2017. But there have been some on the city council in St. Petersburg who've mentioned food co-ops as a way to try to maybe, fill that hole there. And in fact, there is what's known as the One Community Grocery Co-op that it's been in existence for several years, where their goal is to, quote, build a self-determined, community-owned, cooperative grocery store that meets the community's needs for fresh, healthy, and nutritionally dense foods and supports the physical, mental, and economic health of South St. Petersburg. And joining us right now via Zoom from One Community Grocery Co-op is its chair, Erica Hardison, and Kate Haynes, the communications director at One Community Grocery Co-op. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Hey, morning, Erica. Morning, Kay. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Skinny here. So, and as I told you guys straight up when I reached out to you a few days ago, I was not aware at all of One Community Grocery Co-op. So before we get into like where you're at right now, tell us, how long you've been in existence. And I mentioned a little bit about the goal is, but tell us in your own words.
So One Community Grocery Co-op has been around since about 2018. And so we are a grassroots community-grown solution for food access and food sovereignty in St. Petersburg. And we've been building very steadily and surely to really provide an alternative solution that is controlled by the people and want to bring that to fruition.
Yeah, and so we're talking about people. You have members, right? How many folks have gotten involved with this?
So right now we're at 170 members.
And okay, so what came up? You were in the news just a few weeks ago, I believe it was, at the city council, where it was being discussed, and I think ultimately the council did not support providing you with a $50,000 capacity building grant. If you had received that funding, what would you have done with that?
So for that grant, we were looking for training and professional development, but also to help us with feasibility and what we call pre-development activities, which are like performers, market studies, and things like that. But I want to take it back a bit because I just heard you all talking about accurate information.
Yeah.
So what happened is we were invited back in August by the HERS committee, which is the Health, Energy, Resilience, and Sustainability Committee for the city. So it actually wasn't the whole council, a subcommittee of the council. And they are kind of tasked and charged, the council, St. Petersburg City Councils, as well as many other cities. Council members belong to different committees.
Right.
And through those committees, those things are risen or go up to council. And so in August, we did a presentation, and then this council meeting on the 13th, I believe, of November, was one of the council members, Brandy Gabbard, wrote a resolution to get that funding. And so it's kind of, and I'm sure you're aware of this as a political journalist, like your government class really comes into play here when you're talking about and understanding the situation. And so we went to the meeting because the resolution was on the agenda and to answer any questions. And from that, there were 4 council members on that committee, and 2 voted for, and 2 voted against.
Right. It was Richie Floyd and Givens voted against, with Gabbard and Driscoll voting in favor, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, again, we're talking with Erica Hardison and Kate Haynes from One Community Grocery Co-op. And then I read, again, let's make sure this is accurate. I read that you mentioned that you were there in August from the the committee there, the council, wanting to get some funding to attend a national conference on this. Now, you did you didn't get that funding, but you did attend this conference. And what was that about in terms of these other grocery co-ops in the country?
Right.
Yeah.
So it is the up and coming startup grocery co-op conference, and it's held every year. And we have been attending probably for about the past 6 or 7 years. And the conference is just a wealth of information and training and networking with other startup co-ops, and also with co-ops who have come through the kind of network and ecosystem and now are currently open and thriving. And so at that conference, we actually won a national award. We won the W.E.B. Du Bois Education and Training Award for co-ops in that space. And last year we actually got nominated for 2 awards. So in terms of our participation and things like that, we're really on it on a national level, and locally we're really a community led initiative and project, and so we are grassroots by most means of judgment, I would say.
Can I ask you guys, are you familiar? I saw this story come across recently that in Atlanta, they have a city-funded grocery store, or a couple stores, I believe now. Are you guys familiar with this at all?
Do you know the name of the grocery
Yeah.
store?
Let's see. I think they're calling it Azalea Fresh Market at 25 Peachtree State Street. And I'm looking at a story from in Newsweek, and this is talking to the mayor, Dickens, and he was just reelected, I know, last month. I was in Atlanta on the day of the election. Andre Dickens, right? So he's talking about this, and he says, let's see here, let me rule down. He says, so they were trying to, in this, let's see, parts of Atlanta, he says, national grocery chains balked filling the void in a certain part of town due to a lack of disposable income among would-be customers, coupled with the inclination to launch mega stores with massive parking lots. He says they were giving us their rationale, and I was like, so what's the solution? They didn't have one. I was just disappointed in that. So he says Atlanta ultimately decided to, quote, do it ourselves by offering a slew of cash grants and loans totaling $8 million for 2 Azalea Fresh Market locations, the first of which opened on September 8th in the city's Olympia building and replaced a former Walgreens. And the second one is set to open in Southwest Atlanta in February. And he's partners with the Independent Grocers Alliance and another group there. So, yeah, I mean, that has happened. Of course, we hear a lot about in New York City about plans for government-run grocery stores there. But any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, we are not opposed to any grocery store solution,
Yeah.
right? There's all kinds of solutions, and this one it's fairly new. I actually, this is my first time hearing about it, so I can't comment on this particular store. But what was presented in the committee meeting by the research that the city staffers have done is usually those grocery stores open for a little while and fill that need for a little while, but ultimately end up closing. And so the cooperative model is very different.
Uh-huh.
It's built on a foundation of people. We always say in co-ops that we are an association of people first who have come together to solve a community challenge. And for one community grocery co-op, that community challenge is food access, health, and economic development. And so we look at it a little differently because we're an association of people, we have a built-in base, whereas other, like a city-owned store or other grocers, people are just shopping there. They have no initial ties to the grocery store. But for one community grocery co-op, as I said before, we are an association of people. So people have committed at this point, we don't have a brick and mortar. So there are people who have committed before the grocery store opens, and there will be some who will join after. I mean, right now we have 170 members, but our hope is to have thousands of members. Many of the sibling co-ops in our ecosystem have 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 members. And that is a good base of people who are going to support you every week, every month, versus a store that is trying to bring people in and trying to entice them with deals and things like that. Our member owners are committed beyond just the deal that they get in the grocery store.
Again, if you're just tuning in right now, it's 43 minutes past the hour. You're listening to The Skinny here on WMNF 88.5 FM. Mitch Perry with Ray Roa. We're speaking with Erica Hardison and Kay Haynes from the One Community Grocery Co-op. And you mentioned what, other organizations like this around the country have more members. So what's the state of co-ops around the country? I am from San Francisco, which I always remind people of. But I mean, but San Francisco, I know in the 90s when I was there, had one in South of Market. I'm pretty sure that was the case. I don't know if it still exists. So what's this? Do you know how you went to this conference? Big, how expansive this is around the country? How many we have roughly?
Well, there are probably thousands of co-ops around and grocery co-ops around the country.
Okay.
Specifically in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, I should say, there are several. There's actually one that is in our ecosystem, Mandela Market, which serves kind of the same demographic as we seek to serve in South St. Pete. It's in Oakland, and they are actually, I believe, a worker owner cooperative. And so it's very similar, but each co-op is really, really focused on the community need in their geographical area. And so if we look to the Northeast in New York, there's in Brooklyn, there's a very famous co-op, Park Slope Co-op, and they've been open for over 50 years, have tens of thousands of members, and are operating successfully and have been. And in fact, there was an article where, they had the cheapest price of eggs in Brooklyn. And then when we look to kind of newer co-ops in Detroit, Michigan, about a year and a half ago, Detroit People's Food Co-op opened, and they have about 4,000 members, do about $84,000 a week in business, and employ around 20 some odd community members. So when we say at One Community Co-op, we're more than a grocery store, we're definitely that. We're providing more than just groceries. Co-ops provide education. We stand on 7 cooperative principles, and those guide our operations and how we do business and how we interact with the communities that we're in. There are, going back to where in the country, like in California and in the Midwest, co-ops are definitely more popular than they have been in the South. But that is just come through what we call the waves of co-ops, because in earlier times, there were many, many co-ops, and we are a Black-led organization. So there were many Black-led co-ops during times of segregation and times when people couldn't participate in the overall economy due to the laws of the nation. So when we look at that, there's a Southern, and I'm drawing a blank here, sorry, but there are several co-ops that have been in existence for different reasons, and they have found ways for people to thrive while still not being able to participate for some reason or another in the regular economy.
Sure. I guess the last question I'll have for you is if people, hearing about this for the first time, if they wanted to learn more information or maybe get involved with this, how can they do that?
So for us, the best way to get information is to go to our website, www.ocgc.coop, and that's COOP. It looks like coop, but it's actually co-op. And we hold information sessions. So we actually have one on Sunday from 7 to 8. And if you go on our website, you can find that information and find out how you can sign up and listen. We also are very much so in this stage of the game out in the community. And so we do a lot of pop-ups. In fact, tomorrow we'll be at Books and Breakfast in Childs Park at the Childs Park Recreation Center from 11 to 1. And again, like I said, we're more than a co-op, and one of our principles is democratic control. And so we'll be at the Barack Obama Library in St. Petersburg doing a meetup with the Women League of Voters. They're doing a presentation on voting rights and legislation.
Oh, when's that happening? Yeah.
That's happening tomorrow from 2 to 3 p.m.
Okay.
And so, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Ray, you wanted to say something?
No, I was wondering, you talk about expanding the membership. You want to get to thousands. You're at about a 170 right now. The St. Pete Catalyst, Mark Parker there reported that you want to get to 300 before opening a physical location. What is your elevator pitch to people like when they ask, where do you get the product? Am I going to be able to choose like I do at the grocery store? Obviously not. And what do you find as far as people who really have been in the co-op for a long time? What do they enjoy about it? And how are you able to, more or less sell people on it and keep them in there?
So I'll kind of answer your questions backwards.
Sure.
So for, people who have been in it a long time, like I said, we're an association of people first with a mission. So many of the people who are members now in this first stage are people who just believe in the mission and believe that every food is a human right and that everybody should have access to fresh, affordable, nutritionally dense food that, heals and helps their bodies instead of hinders it. And so those are our early adopters who are joining and are members before the store opens. When people say, well, you don't have a store, so what's the point of joining now, right? Because if you join now, like I was saying before, we operate off of 7 cooperative principles, and the second being democratic control. So if you join now, you have the opportunity to really shape the co-op, to help us decide what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like in the inside, what products we will definitely carry. Like some co-ops are all organic, right? And their produce. I'm not saying that's what we are going to be, but member owners get to make some of those decisions. And right now, member owners really get to shape what the co-op is about and what it looks like and how we work with the community and for the community to really bring this vision to fruition.
All right. We're going to leave it there. Erica Hardison, the board president of the One Community Grocery Co-op, and Kate Haynes, the communication director at One Community Grocery Co-op. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Skinny this morning.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Take care. All the best to you. All right.